So, hello everyone, dear authors and invited guests. Welcome to our technical session for today. It's our pleasure to see all of you, and hopefully, everyone is feeling good and everything is going well. So, it's my great pleasure to welcome you to the fifth World Conference on Smart Trends and System Security and Sustainability through Zoom on behalf of Words for 2021 and the Global Research Foundation. We are thankful to you for being part of this and for joining this conference digitally, even that we are all suffering from unpredictable circumstances and conditions because of COVID-19. As you can see, it's virtual, but hopefully next year everything will get back to the normal and we will have the chance to meet you personally and have lots of chat and lots of fun things, not only conference. So at this occasion, we wish everyone and their families to be safe and to have a good time during this pandemic, and for sure it will get soon. It will pass soon, based on the effort of scientific research and everyone in this world. So we hope that you will enjoy this session and the last session of today's conference day. And it would be my pleasure to start by introducing our chair, Professor Julia, and I will go very fast through her profile, even it's very rich to be concluded in one paragraph. But in brief, Professor Julia got her PhD by 2014, and she's currently an assistant professor at Department of Information Engineering of University of Bavuda since 2010. She has been also involved in the digital processing of human data. She contributes with the institution and the companies in field of rehabilitation, assistant living, and BCI. Her current interest includes machine learning and deep learning on brain mixed-learned networks, EEG and EMG, time series, and data fusion. Also, she has interest in the future digital health. So, welcome, Professor, and thanks for being the chair of this this session. Sorry, for sure, the researchers would have a lot from your experience in the field. And it's my pleasure to start with the first presenter from Brazil, Mr. Ervelton, who would present on behalf of the co-authors of paper titled as Audio Encryption with the Computerization Chinook System Error. So we are all listening to you. Could you please just share your screen? I will stop it from my side and turn on your mic. We are listening to you, Doctor, and all the best in the presentation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for the introduction. Are you seeing my screen?
Yeah, Doctor, we can see it and we can hear you clearly. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. So good afternoon for everyone. I'm very happy to be here and share my research. The title of my research is Audio Encryption with Computational Chaotic System Error. My student, Thiago Santos, I'm very glad that he developed almost the entire work. And with me, Thomas Chen, that at City University, and one of my main collaborators, Dr. Butsov from St. Petersburg Electrotechnical University. All right. So introduction. So audio encryption is at the core of every secure video conference system, even on mobile device. So ensuring security is important to preserve the user's privacy. Transmitting data over the network requires efficient encryption. That means that every time we send messages across the internet, and you have to put security and a very high standard. And one of the methods that have been used quite significantly are chaotic systems, because they have these following advantages compared with other methods: ergodicity of chaotic sequence, sensitivity to initial values, and no periodicity. However, less attention has been given to some of the disadvantages of these techniques as well. The main disadvantage is degradation of chaotic behavior due to floating points finite precision. Although chaotic systems are very well known in the science, engineering, and even there are some strong evidence that they can happen in the nature, when you are in a computer, we don't have all the numbers as we have in real systems. What it means? It means that at some point, you are going to start to repeat your time series. And in some systems, this can happen quite quickly. So what's the aim of this work? This work exploits finite error derived from computation of chaotic systems to encrypt audio signals in order to prevent chaos degradation. So instead of using directly the chaotic systems, you are using the error that is, it can be possible to estimate from the computation of the chaotic systems. This error have been introduced in 2017 by me and other colleagues, and we call it a low bound error. We made some statistical tests to see if it has very good pseudo-random properties. So what's the problem that you are going to deal? We are going to deal with 3 sample files. We are going to encode in a 16-bit sign in tags in flag format, and our sample frequency is a usual 44,100 hertz. So the problem, the high sample frequency demands a significant amount of processing. Thus, selective encryption schemes emerge trying to mitigate this problem. Our method focuses on simplicity to accelerate the process of the entire data. What are the requisites that it's necessary? Key in the same data, format of data. Key and data are the same size, since we are proceed with a symmetric encryption protocol. Both signals must have the same size. Statistically random key string drastically decrease the correlation between the original and encrypted file as required. So previous workers use RC4 method, but it has been shown that this method it can be insecure and unreliable. Our work, however, is simple and yet more secure. In this work, we use a well-known chaotic logistic map written as equation 1. So xn is a sequence of results obtained from the chaotic model. Xn is between a range from 0 to 1, and we have chose a parameter of 3.6 to guarantee a chaotic behavior. X1 seems values of a list of m, and we start with 5 values, but you can increase. This is another paper that you have already proceeded with image encryption very successfully, and there are perturbation values used to generate 1/5 of the key. Choosing var values increase the key space as well. So for example, this is one round of simulation that is biased, so the histogram is not good, but when you made 5 rounds of simulation, we eliminate the bias, and we got very good histogram of this with almost uniform sequence. The histogram and spectrograms of 3 audio files. As you can see, the original data here, it has significantly the frequency difference, some concentrated in very areas. But when you apply the spectrogram and the histogram, we use our technique, you see that there is completely uniform. So no one can understand the sound that is going to be sent by the system. We also perform autocorrelation for the key obtained after 20 rounds of XOR. On the right, a zoom of the exploit. As you can see here, there is no significantly autocorrelation between these values. So as a conclusion, we provide a new method for audio encryption using a simple string cipher generation to lower the computation cost. It's possible to vary the number of rounds in order to meet diverse application needs. Well-known indicators prove our method was secure, and by exploiting computational error, we mitigate chaos degradation. We also perform some computational costs, time computational cost, and we have shown that our speed is it's quite enough for majority of applications in the internet and mobile as well. So that's it. Thank you once more for this opportunity, and I give the word again for the organizers. Thank you so much.
Okay. So thank you very much. Yeah. Ferus, would you like to start first?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation, and I can't see any question on the chat box, so Professor Julia will take it from there, and we will enjoy her contribution and the questions. So it's over to you, the professor.
Okay, so thank you very much. It was an interesting presentation. Actually, I have one question related to one of the parameters that you selected. Is more a curiosity than a comment, but you said that you said the parameter R to 3.6. So what's the meaning of that parameter, and how did you decide to have this that value?
Oh yeah, that's an interesting question. There is a technique called bifurcation diagram that you can vary this parameter, and you can see for which parameter, which value of this parameter, you can produce chaotic behavior. So it's shown that for computer simulation that after 3.56, around 356, you can produce chaotic behavior. So with 3.6, we are a secure value that you can produce chaotic behavior that's necessary to produce a sequence that presents pseudo-random properties.
Can you repeat again the name of this reference behavior?
All right, it's a bifurcation diagram.
The bifurcation. Okay. Okay, and I also have another question, because you said that you need to have signals with the same size. What about? I mean, is this requirement holds true, generally saying, or do you have cases in which this requirement is not valid?
No. For some symmetrical encryption, it's necessary for you produce one value that you are going to mix with your information, with your piece of information. So for each, for example, in case of an image, for each pixel, in case of a signal, for each sample, you have to produce a value that are going to be mixed to produce a different signal. So in this kind of technique, it's necessary to produce. That's why we have chose the logistic map that's very fast to produce this sequence.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure.
We cannot hear.
Sorry. Thank you for the presentation and for the great efforts, which was really clear. And now we are moving forward to the next presentation. We have a lady from Indonesian University. So welcome, Ms. Septi. It would be our pleasure to listen to your presentation titled as Impact of IT Leadership on Transformational of Role of IT Improving Individual Tax Return Reporting Compliance at the Director General of Tax. On behalf of your co-authors, could you please just share your screen? I will stop it from my side, turn on your mic and go ahead with the presentation. We are all listening to you. Thank you in advance. Sorry, there is it's okay, but there is a little bit echo in the sound. Could you please just make sure that the mic is well configured?
Can you see my screen?
No, we can't see it, unfortunately. But if you need any help, can you just push me the presentation on the chat to me only, and I will share it from my side if there is a technical limitation.
It's not responding.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's responding now. Okay. Maybe there is a little bit delay on your side.
Can you see it?
No, we can't see it. If you wish, Miss, you can just try it aside and just make you after the next presenter, or otherwise try to share it again. We have 1 minute just to try, and after that, I will just flip you with the next presenter. Mm, it's okay. I'm sorry for that, but I will just make the next presenter, then get back to you, because really, I'm really sorry. We can't even see the screen or hear you clearly. So just to make most of it, I will move forward to Mr. Georgie.
It's still delayed. It's still delayed. I don't know why.
I'm really sorry, but because there is a little bit echo in the sound, it will not be comfortable to everyone. Just please try to replace your mic, and it's a matter of 15 minutes presentation, and we will get back to you. So, Mr. Georgie, are you with us? I wanted to present your paper titled as
Hello, yeah.
Yeah. So it's my pleasure to present your paper, creation of high interaction hypothesis system based on Docker containers. So could you please just share your screen and go ahead with the presentation? Just a soft reminder, we have 12 minutes. And I will raise a flag whenever you have 2 minutes more to present. So share your screen, please, and turn on your mic. We are all listening to you. Thank you.
Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yes,
Yeah, we can see it.
Hear you very well.
Yeah.
At least
Could you
me.
yeah, please just raise your voice and go ahead with the presentation.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it looks like that the speaker is very close to your mouth, so we can hear it like the breath. We can hear the breath. So could you please just adjust it? And I'm really sorry for that. It's the consequences of COVID. We understand that we have lots of technical limitations, but we have to survive. So it's fine, Doctor. Just go ahead, and whenever there is any interruption, I will do it. It's fine. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon to everyone. First, it's an honor to be here with you today to share this work, creation of a high interaction honeypot system based on Docker containers. So, as an introduction, we should be aware that cybersecurity is a field that is becoming more and more important, both at organization level as well as at user level. Nowadays, we are all targets for cyber criminals. Also, the World Economic Forum's 2020 report ranks cyber attacks as the fifth most important risk, and this is likely to increase in the incoming years. Also, cybercrime ranking from theft to hacking and data destruction has increased by 600% as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, right? And new attacks emerge every day, and it's necessary to establish techniques to counter them, and also, why not, to know about them, right? To get a deeper understanding of them. And one of the tools used for this purpose are honeypots. And honeypots serve as a decoy system that attract attackers and allow us to study their behavior. Okay, they're based on the level of interaction, low interaction honeypots and high interaction honeypots. The low interaction honeypots emulate, for example, an application and an operating system only at the network level. In this sense, it is unlikely that any attacker can access our system through a low interaction honeypot. Also exists the high interaction honeypots, and these are real systems. Okay, so the amount of information they can obtain is greater than the low interaction honeypots. So one of the disadvantages of this technology is that they are more difficult to maintain, and any unauthorized access to them is also risky for the organization. So we have to have special care when we deploy the high interaction honeypots. Okay, and most of these honeypots are for research. But one of the problems is that most of the research papers are focused on low interaction honeypot solutions. They serve mainly to divert the attention of the attackers, no? And disadvantage is that they are easily detectable. There are from publications to tutorials on the internet on how to recognize this honeypot, the low interaction honeypot. Therefore, we need honeypots that are more robust and harder to detect. In this case, we propose a honeypot based on Docker, a very lightweight virtualized system that, despite being a virtual system, this is still a real system because it provides real service that interacts with users. So Docker is a perfect technology that we could use as a honeypot. And why we use Docker? No, why Docker? Because Docker has features that make it easily adaptable to work as a honeypot. There are three main points that our honeypot must have in this case, and these are monitoring, scalability, and security. In the first part, or in terms of monitoring Docker, Docker allows to have an out-of-the-box approach in which we are going to get both network and system activity information from outside the honeypot. And Docker is so lightweight that each container can be considered as a process. And tools such as Strafe can obtain the system calls of each of these containers and get an idea of what activities an attacker is performing from inside the honeypot without being aware of it. No? In the same way, the interfaces of the container are under the domain of Docker bridge. Right? And monitoring these interfaces, it is possible to know what is the network activity that is performed from inside the honeypot. And in this case, tools such as TCP-dump can help us to capture this information. And once we capture the system calls and the network data, then we could store it in a database for later analysis. In the case of scalability, our container, the scalability will allow to create honeypots on demand in an automatic way. And to achieve the scalability, we need to use, to achieve the scalability, we use XINetD, as you can see in the picture. And let's suppose that the attacker with IP1 interact with our honeypot. To start the session, he sends a TCP SYN packet to the honeypot server, and XINetD gets this request and looks for the service under its domain. And assuming that a honeypot is enabled for SSH service, XINetD looks for this service. Once found, through 13 pre-configured commands, it initializes the honeypot and redirects the traffic coming from this IP to the respective honeypot. In this case, if a second attacker interact with the honeypot server, the process is repeated. The XINetD receives the TCP SYN request and the other things. If the second IP interact with our honeypot, the process is repeated, and a dedicated honeypot is created for the second attacker. This allows for us, at the moment of analyzing the information, there is no overlapping of information, and the analysis becomes simpler. In the aspect of security, we must prevent the attacker once he has gained access to the honeypot affect the reader system, either by gaining access to it or by causing a denial of service that makes our system inoperative. For this, Docker uses some technologies such as namespaces, which isolate process, making them believe that they are the only one that exists within the system. This allows that there is no communication of process between containers or between container and the real system. C-groups allows limiting the resources assigned to this process inside the container, preventing them from making unlimited use of resources and compromising the system through a denial of service attack. And another important aspect is the property given by the Linux system itself with a mandatory access control, which limits the privilege in such a way that if a real system gets compromised, the privilege obtained by the attacker would be limited. This is the flowchart of our solution of the high interaction honeypot. It's simple, but it gives an idea of how the system works. For example, if an attacker wants to interact with our honeypot system, he sends a packet, a TCP SYN packet to access to one service. No? An inbound packet from the IP x.x.x. to the port Y. Then, once the attacker has sent the first packet, we set the variable container name with the value honeypot hyphen x dot x dot x dot x dot, the IP of the attacker. And if this container exists, start a honeypot and establish a NAT to the honeypot. If the honeypot doesn't exist, create and run the honeypot. Then allow the port Y using technologies such as IP tables, and then establish the NAT to the honeypot. After that, forward the TCP packets from the attacker to the honeypot. And once the connection was established, we're going to store the network data, and this is called in a database. And this would be a scheme of the operation of the solution in which several attackers try to access the service provided by the honeypot. We see the XINFD, no, is who receives the request, then execute the script to create the honeypot. These honeypots are Dockers, also use IP tables for open certain ports, and socket to forward the traffic from the attacker to the containers, right? And all the data is stored in a database using technologies such as strace or TCP dump. Then our test results, we deployed our honeypot system on Google Cloud platform. And to deploy our honeypot, we use a virtual machine with the next characteristics or the next feature. We deployed a virtual machine series E2, the machine type E2 high CPU, 4 CPUs, 4 gigabytes of memory, 100 gigabytes of disk, because we are going to store a lot of data. And we use the operating system Ubuntu 18 LTS minimum. This is a picture of the system code that we obtain. In the image, we can see, for example, only the system call exec. No, there are more, but in this case, I show only this one. No, we can see that, for example, the attacker downloads some files using the secure copy, the SCP, and then it tries to execute them as well as alter part of the cron tab file to perform tasks periodically. Right at the bottom, if you can see, there are some lines that have the cron tab. Then at the network level, something interesting that we found is that the attacker downloads some files using the HTTP protocol, most exactly using the wget command inside a Linux system, which on the left side, if you can see a table, we mapped and discovered that they are URLs belonging to the cryptocurrency Monero. So the attacker tried to use the resources of our honeypot to crypto mining, right? More exactly in the Monero cryptocurrency.
Yeah, sorry for interruption, but we have 2 minutes more. Could you please just try to make most of it to present everything? So sorry.
Yes, it's only one presentation. Well, to be sure, we upload some of the download files to Virus Total database, and this attack produced 3 files. 2 of them were unnoticed by Virus Total, but one gave us an alert. And this file was recognized by 18 out of 61 vendors as a cryptocurrency related malware. And if we could that we could see that our honeypot was able to capture information necessary to know what is happening in the network. And as the conclusions, sorry, although honeypots are not considered a cutting-edge technology, they can add value to an organization by providing information about an attack. Also, Docker, by its nature, helps to deploy honeypots and facilitate the capture of information through an out-of-the-box approach, which gives the necessary stealth to not be detected as a honeypot so easily. One of the disadvantages that we notice is that this present solution is only designed for Linux systems, so we are not able to capture information for Windows system or Mac system or Android system. But as a future work, we are going to extend the honeypot functionality to support other operating systems as well. Okay, and thank you.
Okay, thank you for the presentation.
it.
We don't have questions on the chat box, but just a reminder, everyone can post the question and they can for sure share it with the presenter. And it's your turn, Professor Julia. What do you think about the presentation and the idea?
Okay, so thank you very much, Jorge, for the presentation. It was interesting. I have a couple of questions. So one is a little bit more technical. So you said at the beginning that using this technology, you can actually study the behavior of the attacker, and you showed that you are able to find some kind of information from your honeypot. But can you extend a little bit the how can I say, the description of these studies that you can do? So what's more information about the behavior of the attacker can you get from these honeypots?
Okay, thank you for the question. For example, we're going to look at this. Okay. For example, the honeypot almost always there are certain kind of information that you can gather from this honeypot. For example, almost always is the network data, how the attacker interact with the honeypots at the network level, maybe sending some packets, some payloads that have a malware inside. Another thing is the system calls, because the system calls are how the user is going to interact with the system. Okay, every time that we want to do a certain activity inside an operating system, we use the system call. The system call is going to request to the kernel to do certain operations. So if we see the system call, we can determine what the attacker is trying to do. For example, if he want to open a file, if he want to interact with at the network level, if he wants to, for example, create a connection, delete a file, everything that we could do in a computer, in a server, in an operating system is obtained by the system calls.
Okay, thank you. Well, just a very quick question, and then I saw there is a question from the audience. So I saw the next steps you are going to perform, to investigate. Do you also have in mind any specific scenarios of application for your honeypot?
Yes. Now, a friend and I, we are studying the behavior of the ransomware attack, because we saw that the ransomware is nowadays is very popular, right? And it's very effective at the moment of attack. So also cause a lot of yeah, lose.
Damages. Yeah.
See, a lot of damage.
Okay.
And also, sorry, but also at the we're studying the RDP protocol because nowadays we are in remote work, so the RDP or the remote desktop is very used nowadays. So we are also studying this scenario.
Okay, perfect. So, Professor, then when push any question to your side because I can't see it in my chat.
Okay.
Sorry, because it's maybe direct to you.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry.
That's fine.
So a question from the audience. Very interesting question. So how could you measure the quality of a honeypot? Is there any specific index?
Sorry, I can listen.
Okay, so the question is, how could you measure the quality of a honeypot? And is there any specific index to do that?
It's not like other scenarios that you have an index to measure the effectiveness, but almost always you use the quantity of data that you can obtain from the honeypot, right? It's for this reason that we are deploying a high interaction honeypot, because compared with a low interaction honeypot, a high interaction honeypot could obtain more data. And for example, I didn't explain this, but we also capture all the difference between the image and the container, because Docker works as a layers, right? And when we want to deploy a container, first we deploy a base image, and when we deploy the container, we deploy the image, then upper layer and a merge layer, right? And between the merge layer and the base layer, we have the upper layer, and that upper layer store all the data that differ with the image layer. So we also capture that information to analyze, maybe using some databases as a virtual, right? And for example, in this case, this file, we obtain this file using the upper layer of the honeypot of the Docker, right? Then we store this file, and then we use this to check this file.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question, for your input, Professor, as well, and thank you for the great presentation. The effort is really clear to everyone. So now
Thank
I
you very
want to
much.
thank you, all the best. So my next step will be backward to our previous presenter, Septi from Indonesia University, who would present the paper titled as Impact of Leadership on Transformational of the IT role of IT improving individual tax return reporting compliance at the Direction General of Taxes. On behalf of your co-authors, could you please just try to present now? I have the presentation. I will share it from my side. And please, regarding the mic, just please try to try it before moving forward, because last time it was there is some echo. So yeah, could you please just try your mic?
Okay. Would you like to help me to share screen?
Yeah, yeah. It's fine, because the presentation that you have pushed to me has an issue. So could you please try to share it from your side again? I'm really sorry for the technical issues. Yeah, could you please try to share your screen?
Share my presentation, please.
Yeah, because the file you pushed me is corrupted. That's why. Try to share it from your side. Maybe it's a matter of versions. Okay. I'm really sorry. We could not hear you clearly because of there is also technical issue with the headset. So just to make it more practical, I will take the next presenter. I will keep you till the end, and between the presentations, we can chat to solve the issue between me and you. I'm really sorry for that, dear, and for sure you will present at, and it would be great presentation. So moving forward, now it's the turn of Miss Laura from Peru. It would be a pleasure to listen to your presentation on behalf of your co-authors on for a paper titled as "Ab on Violet on UV Radiation Skincare Habits." So we are all listening, especially the ladies. It would be something interesting for them. So could you please just share your screen, turn on your mic, and go ahead with the presentation? All the best, dear. Mm,
Hello,
Professor. Yeah,
can I
Professor.
start?
Yeah, you can start. Just share your screen and go ahead. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. We can see the presentation and we can hear you clearly.
Okay. My regards to all. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. My name is Laura Sofia Basandias. I am a system engineer and teacher at Universidad Privada del Norte in Cajamarca, Peru. I am very happy and grateful for participating in this conference. I am going to start with a presentation. Introduction. In recent years, environmental pollution has increased dramatically, generating strong damage to the ozone layer with caused change in people's lifestyle due to increased exposure to the sun during the day. These common changes have led to an increase in dermatological and skin disease, even reaching skin cancer, which in many cases leads to the death of the people. The General Directorate of Epidemiology, DG in Peru, carried out an analysis of the cancer situation at the national level based on epidemiological care finding during the period 2006 and 2010, cancer caused 54%, 3,231 from women cancer cases and 46% from men, 2,744 cancer cases only in 4 years. The method. The research was of a quantitative approach of an applied type and with a quasi-experimental design, emphasizing the solution of problems for the improvement of skincare habits in people. The students selected for the research were obtained through a probability sample using the statistical formula for known populations using a margin of error of 5%, for which 370 people were obtained that make up the sample divided into 2 groups, control and experimental. Method. The data collection technique was the survey. The instrument used to measure skincare habits was a 20 items questionnaire with closed and multiple choice questions built from the theoretical framework. The instrument was subject to an evaluation by experts for its validation, obtaining a 90% validity on average, and through a pilot test, an acceptable reliability was obtained by the Cronbach alpha statistics equal to 0.720. To measure the functionality of the system, the ISO 9126 standard was used based on the technical wide for software evaluation criteria such as switchability, accuracy, interoperability, security, and functionality compliance. For the development and implementation of the unbiased system, the four phases of the life cycle provided by OpenApp were used among the emphasis: start, elaboration, construction, transition. The start, initial preparation, gather information, final preparation, schedule, general project plan, vision document, risk plan. In the elaboration phase, analysis of the solution, list of requirements, solution design, glossary of terms, architecture document, database document, prototypes. In the construction phase, specification of use case, development, monitoring, acceptance test, and finally, transition phase, the application deployment. Technological alternative of unbiased solution for who? People who are exposed to the sunlight freely, unbiased users. What it offers, recommendation for skincare according to the level of UV radiation in exposure to the sunlight, with difference from the explanation that only show the level of the UV radiation. The product, a mobile application and a web application that informs about skincare in exposure to the sunlight according to UV radiation. Unbiased system benefit: first, knowledge of UV radiation, background or research in health and technology, promoter or change of habits in people. Results: the unbiased system was developed at the mobile application and web application level, was used in the technical wide for evaluating the software, obtaining a rating from good to excellent. In the construction of the prototype hardware, an Arduino Uno and ML8511 UV radiation sensor, an 8266 Wi-Fi module, and a breadboard were used. These elements were interconnected for the reception and subsequent output of UV radiation data in real time. Skincare habits that were observed consider the following aspects: use of protection against UV radiation, knowledge of the maximum time of exposure to the sun without protection, knowledge of the set UV radiation index for unprotected exposure, use of means for the care and protection of the skin against UV radiation, knowledge of application that report on UV radiation levels, and skincare recommendations. Visit the dermatologist to receive recommendation of skincare against solar radiation. The use of the unbiased software shows that people are more conscientious in the use of sun protection. They improve their knowledge about the areas of the skin that are more prone to be affected by UV radiation. They better identify the maximum time that can be exposed to the sun without protection. They learn about the UV radiation index accepted for exposure without protection, as well as the means for the care and protection of the skin using various types of application or websites that report on the levels of UV radiation on skincare. And finally, they became aware of the visit to the dermatologist to receive recommendation of skincare. In the results, in these tables, data on habits were taken in 4 observations: in the pre-test and post-test, in the control, and in the experimental group. Pearson chi-square test was used after. Table 1, use of protection against UV radiation. Table 2, knowledge of the maximum time of exposure to the sun without protection. Knowledge of the accepted UV index for unprotected exposure. Table 3. Table 4, use of means for the care and protection of the skin against UV radiation. Table 5, knowledge of application that report UV radiation levels and skin care recommendation. And the table 6, visit the dermatologist to receive recommendation on skincare against solar radiation. Conclusions. It was concluded in the identification of a positive influence of the use of ultraviolet for the improvement of the skincare habits of the people, obtaining in the person chi-square test the items with 0.0, less than 0.05 of significance. It was determined that the use of the developed software, mobile, and web application on violet positively influences people's skincare habits, improving knowledge about skincare, UV radiation index, time maximum exposure. The quality of the unviolet software was verified according to ISO 9126 in terms of functionality, with a high degree of acceptance for the benefit of users. It's important to continue implementing skincare alternatives, since by changing your protection habits against UV radiation, you will help prevent skin cancer, which progresses silently. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for the great presentation and for managing the time effectively. Much appreciated. And we don't have questions on the chat box, so we want to get back to our chair for her input and the questions. It's over to you, Professor Julia.
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much. Very interesting presentation. I would like to ask you something related to the experimental part. So, for example, it was not so clear to me. What did you give to the participants? So you showed the device. I mean, the device that is able to capture the amount of radiation, UV radiation. But what was the device that you gave to the participants, and also what kind of instructions, if any, you asked to the participants?
Okay. The most important contribution of this app is to be able to recommend according to the UV radiation of the location of the people. No? If I am in Lima, Peru, is different about the radiation, and the recommendation maybe is most more radiation. No? Is different in Cajamarca, Peru. For that is according, or the recommendation is are according the location. Is the difference, and others apps or websites about that.
Okay, so you so what's the function? I mean, how did you use this sensor? You showed, maybe I missed some parts. You showed the Arduino, right? The Arduino based sensor. So that kind of device is supposed to acquire to sense the amount of radiation in a specific place when a participant is using it, or he or she has with him or her. Is that correct? My understanding, or because or the app is using, for example, the GPS position of the subject, of the participant?
We use sensor the radiation to be sure is according to the real radiation. We try to prove with the real, to compare.
Okay.
Sincerely, is a prototype, is a start. It's have to continue to improve, but we are starting in that.
Okay. Okay. So thank you.
Thank you for all.
Yeah. Thank you for the presentation. And now we want to move to the next presenter. Sorry, I have to just to provide a very quick introduction before handing over to you. Dr. Valerie, who would present on behalf of the co-authors a paper titled as Contemporary Transportation Application as a New Forms of Social Construction Technology. So it's over to you. I will stop sharing from my side. Could you please just again share your screen, turn on your mic, and we are all listening to your presentation. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Now you can see my presentation, right?
Yes.
Nice. So, hello, everybody. Ahlan wa sahlan. Buongiorno. So, let me start my presentation. Yes, I'm happy to be here with you. It's a great pleasure really to
We
be
are
here.
sorry, but there is a little bit noise in the background. I'm really sorry about
Yeah.
that.
Let me just. Now it's much better. Okay.
A little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So I will be speak more louder. And
Please.
my report is not so technological. It's more maybe descriptive because my team is engaged in strategic communications. But we decided to, in this part of my speech, decided to compare two very interesting systems like Gojek and Yandex Taxi in Russia. It's a new media technology and which connects person to person, and this comparison is very important for my country at least and for Indonesia. So our mutual team decided to do this research, and let me present some part of this. And the concept of causation between technology and human nature is not only explained by social construction of technology theory, but the technological determinism theory as well, presented by Thorsten Veblen. So for today, we could see how all those actually two theories been applied in the two countries, Russia and Indonesia. Gojek and Yandex Taxi platform application is one of the concrete examples of the implementation of the social construction of new media. And in our case, Yandex Taxi, it's Russia, Moscow, was created more than 10 years ago, and it now operates in 300 major cities throughout Russia and other countries like Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Serbia, Israel, Ivory Coast, Finland, Ghana, etc. And from business perspective, it's very interesting project and very similar to Gojek. Although I would mention now similarities and differences between these two projects. Gojek is a ride-sharing company, is already operating in Asian countries and 17 countries around the world. And it was founded also about 10 years ago, only with 20, it's incredible motorbikes, drivers. And now it's a great company with such a big amount of money turnover. Yandex is a subsidiary company, joint venture with American company, Uber, and there are some similarities, but also differences. New media has an interactive and free nature, and in our case, we could see the cooperation. Gojek was founded mainly on the users of this service in Indonesia, as well as Russian passengers also like this kind of taxi because of cheap price and flexible, I would even say a very updated and very popular among different ages applications. Gojek already have super app. Since the time of its creation in 2015, with 4 services: Go Ride, Go Send, Go Shop, and Go Food. Now there is also unexpected directions of developing digital wallet entertainment as well. So very much similarity in Yandex, in Yandex App Store as well. So first of all, let me attract your attention to besides taxi, also cargo transportation by Gojek and Yandex Taxi. But there is small difference because you can choose in Russian version, you can choose and look at your carrier, at this size, at this exterior, and you can choose by the photo, and it's a very serious and very important difference. Gojek offers, as we see, 3 transportation options: Go Ride, motorcycle taxi; Go Car, or their taxi with a private carrier; Go Bluebird, partnership with the largest Indonesian taxi service, Bluebird. But it's not so easy to choose among the car you want to order, among the carrier you want to order. But in Yandex, you can do that. You can do that, and before you order your trip, you can see actually, and you can even get acquainted with the driver of your order. At Gojek, delivery displayed in separate icons in the application. Go Send, for instance, motorcycle delivery of small loads; Go Box, cargo transportation. You can enter Go Send from main one. Go Box is hidden, so you can read it on the screen. But the most important thing that you can much more easier do it for Yandex Taxi. There are different carrier for depends on the weight you want to order, 10 kilos, 20 kilos, like that. It is more, I would say, more detailed if you talk about Yandex Taxi. And Gojek with 3 mini apps, also trying to expand its influence, like Go Food, Go Mart, Go Shop, which was very important and very valuable during COVID-19. The same did Yandex Taxi, Yandex Food. It was almost the same. And it's very important to talk about digital wallet. For payment in Yandex Taxi, you need to link a card or select payments using Apple, Google Pay, Cash. A Gojek payment it has its own digital wallet. There is a small difference, but it's very important difference because Indonesia is one of the countries in Asian region with the highest level of development and electronic commerce, not like my country. So talking about similarities and differences, I would also mention that very good prospect for this contemporary transportation applications in forms of social construction technology in my country, Russia. And if you look at this program in Indonesia, you also could see that according to a survey conducted before COVID-19 pandemic in April 2019, many respondents who used Gojek described it as a very friendliness company. It's so important. It's like actually Indonesia is the largest Muslim country in the world. So friendly company, friendly, good atmosphere. It's very important for this business. It's not the same in my country. We just striving to be like that. Anyway, the Yandex Taxi owns now more than 60% of market share in my country. It's a huge market share and with very good prospects. And coming to the end of my report, I would like to mention about loyalty system for services within Yandex. Yandex Taxi is limited to use promotional codes. Its main task to give a discount on a new order, and thus acquaint one with the service or work out the negative view to an unsuccessful trip or order. It's very important because a little bit different aims for Gojek, which motivates people to use e-wallet instead of paying cash. It's a different, quite different aims. And the main conclusion is that social construction theory of technology emerges because of social process. And the very important words I used as a motto in my presentation of Marshall McLuhan, it's becoming implemented into practice. And for now, for me, as a specialist in strategic communication, it's very important to mention the use of technology as a representation of such kind of activity, because I couldn't say that there is cooperation between these two compared in my report companies, but I want to say that they are coming to the same point from different angles. They may make different ways, but reach the same point. It's so interesting in our present day, when the words of Marshall McLuhan about technology, which are making our minds and deliver this message, it's very important. So from my point of view, it's my first time present at this conference. What I've seen and what I was looking at today, it's very interesting for our research team. For sure, I will participate once again. Thank you so much. شكرا جزيلا.
Okay, thank you, and shukran in Arabic, as you said it in Arabic as well. So, shukran for the great information and for the idea. We really need it. We really need our around to get discounts. So, thank you. Okay, so we don't have any questions in the chat. Our chair for sure has her valuable input and some questions. It's over to you, Professor Julia.
Yes, so thank you for the presentation. I was actually a little bit surprised about this comparison among these two very different countries. So Indonesia and Russia mainly. I have one question. I mean, I suppose, so I don't know very much about both the two countries. I just know a very few information. So, but I suppose that the analysis or this study considered the application of these services in the main cities, I think. So the comparison has been done using the app and the services in the, I suppose, in the main cities, both in Indonesia and in Russia. Is that right or?
Molto grazie. You see, but I can compare Italy with my country, so I can, yeah. Well, anyway, we decided to start this project because one of my PhD students, I'm full professor at the university, People's Friendship University of Russia, and one of my PhD students from Indonesia. And we compared also not only main cities. Yes, you are right, mentioned about this, but the expansion of GoJack project is actually it's all around the world, like Yandex Taxi. It's the same. So there are many similarities, but of course there are some differences. But irrespectively of the, I would say, of faith, of number of people living in the country, 300 million in Indonesia and 140 million in my country, yeah, irrespectively of, we are moving to the same direction. It's very interesting. For me, as a sociologist, it's very interesting. In this report, I didn't use figures because, I've seen so many research, so many comparative analysis in previous presentations. So I decided, I changed my presentation even for today, yeah, because I wanted to speak about philosophy of this project, the philosophy of our conference, because we are moving to the same direction to make our world better, more comfortable, sustainable for living, better living, yeah. So yes, you are right. We are different. But at the same, we are so close. I visited many times Indonesia. I like it very much. And this in fall semester, my student is one of my co-authors. He's supposed to defend his thesis about fake news in COVID-19. It's different a little bit, yeah. It's different topic, of course. But the similarities, they touched me very much. Because it's not kind of copy and paste. It's people just moving from different direction to the same goal. That's so important for our conference. I think so.
Okay. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much once again. Thank you so much. See you.
I see you.
Yeah, thank you again for the presentation, for the informative discussion. So now, since we don't have our last author for today, I want to just get back for the last time to Septi for her presentation. So could you please just try again, Septi, and I will help you with the PowerPoint from my side. We need to make sure that the voice is clear. Okay, I will share the presentation now. And it's over to you. Could you please just turn on your mic and go ahead whenever you need me to move to next slide? Just let me know. I'm following up with you.
You hear my voice?
Unfortunately, dear, we can't hear you clearly.
Can you hear my voice?
No. There is a noise, and it looks like that it's very close to your mouth, so we can't hear you clearly. I'm sorry for that. So if you don't mind, I will just go through the slides for Professor Julia and the other audience. And for sure, by reading the slides, Professor Julia will get an idea of the topic and she can give you a feedback. Yeah.
Доклад
Yeah.
посвященный
Still,
современным
the
Yeah.
voice is not clear.
Yeah, it's not clear at all. So Professor Julia, I will just go through the slides very quick and just to give Sipti a chance to present her work. So here, as I can see, there is an outline, introduction, literature, methodology, results and discussion, and conclusion and suggestion. At the introduction, it looks like that she's trying to show the steps of her application, formulating and implementing policies of tax sector. Then moving forward, she's trying to focus on, I think, a specific case of KEP 05PG 2005, where there is no need to set aside time, efforts, and money to come tax office report returns. The third thing is previous done manually. We all know that the tax officers are suffers a lot for managing the tax reports. And the fourth thing, or the following step is gold award appreciation category, for the tax as impressing the tax revenue. Here she's presenting the problem, uh, which is common even for me as a PhD researcher from business school, that we often get lateness and tax avoidance, tax evasion, also because of submitting the tax reports. So we need the IT to go hand in hand with the taxation process, which will increase the organizational strength, leadership, and improve the reporting. From the literature, she's trying to present a sample of literature. One is focusing on taxpayer compliance, where we really need it, mainly in the emerging markets where there is lots of tax avoidance. The role of IT in an organization, as we all know, that it's become an approach to merge and to implement IT leadership based on IT strategic description of the organization, which is mainly led by the top management. And for the IT, here she's trying to summarize the relationship between IT leadership approach to the role of IT from the literature. Sorry, I've not read it before, but I'm just trying to make things clear. So for the research methodology, I think that she applied literature study based on secondary data, and also she conducted some interviews mainly with the 4 employees at head of tax office and regional office, 2 employees and 3 employees from different departments. The first group are from the counseling and services, something like this, and the rest are from the information technology, to make it comprehensive from all standing points and all stakeholders. She collected the initial data, identified the problem, went over the literature, and analyzed the data based on P2 human and 3 employees from the ITC department, as mentioned. For the results and discussions, she tried to do something like SWOT analysis for the factory, for the strategic side, turnarounds and support. So she's trying to summarize the key results. I will give you a minute to read them. Okay, then moving forward, here there are also other part of the discussion where there is a focus on efficiency, apply the value of ICT, the ITHR, and the service optimization. The here there is a brief of the lesson learned from the experience and the research, which is also based on the results. For example, the growth in online tax return reporting compliance due to massive campaign carried by the DGT head office, which is also common as the merge between IT and business accounting and so on, requires a huge support from the senior management to move forward to this step, which is also, I think, clarified here that management of alliance and cooperation with their third parties can accelerate the advancement of organizational group, reducing development cost, shortage of learning path, and so on, which are the main limitations of adapting technology like ERP system and so on. So the IT leaders need to have a deep understanding of organizational business, which will accelerate the determination of strategy and the strategic decision, as the business are key stakeholders there, in this process. If they don't provide the requirements clearly, nothing would go as expected. In conclusion, she indicates that there is different roles in IT in terms of tax return reporting, and the results, as I can read from the presentation, it was positive and supportive of the role of IT leadership. So for sure, the research, as many researchers faced many limitations. The main thing is related to COVID-19. As most of researchers can't meet face to face, the number of interviews was very limited. But the authors provided some recommendation for the future research, is for example, to strengthen the investment in IT and focus more on the IT leadership in the organization at more strategic level. So I tried to make most of it. I hope that I told everything as expected. So thank you. Okay, it's over to you, Professor Julia, if you have any feedback or anything.
Well, actually, it's a little bit difficult this time
Yeah.
to give a feedback. It will
Yeah,
be,
I know.
of course.
Yeah.
I appreciate your try, and I'm sorry that um, Mrs. Sethi could not make it to present herself her work. So from my side, it's a little bit difficult to make a question.
Yeah.
I could, maybe I could be interested in knowing more, for example, what kind of relationship, or if it is possible, or let's say it could be useful to have, of course, IT systems much more effective in this in providing this kind of services.
Yeah.
But at the same time, probably another one very important element is the strict connection between the IT, let's say, professions, and also professionals from the bureaucratic point of view. So probably there should be some strict connection
Yeah.
and the availability with an easy interface for the users, not only an IT interface, friendly interface, but also accessible information from the bureaucratic point of view, administrative point of view. And
Okay.
another thing that it came to my mind is when you told about mention about students, so
Yeah.
the academic let's say field. Sometimes there is these issues when international students are coming visiting our universities. Sometimes documents and all the bureaucracy is in our own language, so some kind of I don't know how automatic translation,
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
the it would be useful to have also documentation and support also in foreign languages,
Okay.
for foreign people.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry, I cannot ask you something more specific.
For
I'm
sure,
sorry for that.
for sure. But we are trying to help, and you give some very interesting insights and advice, even for the future research and improvements of the future work. For sure that SIPT is hearing us and will take all notes in consideration. So thank you, everyone. And we are almost at the end of our session for today. So thank you for everyone for being part of this. It's really highly appreciated to spend your time and efforts even in those hard circumstances. So I sincerely thank our authors for their excellent presentations and contribution. Again, we are sorry for some technical limitations, but again, it's the consequences of COVID. So thank you for participation in this international conference. I hope that the session was informative enough. The good news that all presenters will get their certification within a couple of business days. So could you please just keep an eye to the emails in case that any support is needed from your side to our team. All applications have been already transferred to Springer. Sorry.
Sarah, sorry for interrupting. Just a minute. I think there was a message from a presenter in the chat, and
Yeah.
Karina, I think Karina has left out her presentation. So can we ask her to give the presentation as at this point of time?
Okay, but because the session is almost over, but it's fine. I can return to her. Okay, so Karina, the first presenter, I think. Sorry.
No, I think Karina has left in another session.
Yeah, in the previous session. Yeah. So yeah, if it's
no worry. Karina, you can share your screen and you can start presenting your.
Yeah, please.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, and stop sharing from my side. Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you.
And Parul, you can check the text also. There are a few queries regarding the presentation. There is one more author, that is Prajwal S. Stilkar. So can he also get a chance? Just
so can you see the screen?
Yeah. If we have to, if I can extend the session, it's fine for me. Yeah. Go ahead, dear. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. Hi, everyone. Hola para todos. Sorry, I only speak mathematics other than Russian, English, or Spanish. So my today's topic is reaction capacity identification problem. Is there any way to formalize scientific knowledge and automate reasoning so that intelligent systems can solve it? First, what is reaction capacity? Reaction capacity is an umbrella term for chemical compound reactivity. The possibility, variety, and special features of chemical reactions are those aspects that are implied by the term chemical compound reaction capacity. Major factors that determine reaction capacity are the chemical compound structure, initial substance structure and reactive chemical structure, and reaction conditions. So a contemporary view of reaction capacity is based on the assessment of the electron density redistribution in the initial substance, stemming from the presence of the reactive chemical. For the most part, any chemist can predict the results of such redistribution, taking into account the structure of the chemical compound under review. So the more knowledge the scientist possesses, the more concise his or her predictions are. Well, chemists acquire their knowledge during dozens of years of studying and hands-on lab work. Scientists' brain knowledge base has hundreds of rules of various detail level, generally in the form of equalities, inequalities, or implications. For instance, if the outermost electron shell is completely filled, a chemical bond cannot be formed. And special cases, examples and counterexamples. Although we do not have absolute knowledge about the microcosm laws of nature, we can reason about the chemical compound reaction capacity based on the incomplete information we possess. any chemist can, so here comes the concept of functional groups. Any chemist can undertake the following thought experiment: choose the chemical compound, mark the fragments of the compound, and for each fragment marked in the previous step, the chemist searches his or her knowledge base to extract rules and cases relevant to the fragment. So evaluating the extracted information, the chemist can reason about the initial compound reaction capacity. For instance, this is the chemical compound that I have drawn in the Biovia draw, and I have marked several chemical groups like ether group, nitro group, ketonic group, even though I'm not a chemist. So the concept of functional group as a subset of atoms organized in such a way that defines physical and chemical properties and reaction capacity of the chemical compound that is comprised of it penetrates organic, medical chemistry, the study of toxins, spectroscopy in many of its aspects, and other branches of chemical science. Intelligent systems can help us here. Well, since the Dendral project, intelligent system development has seemed a promising solution for many chemistry tasks that require both brute force algorithms and methods associated with AI. But nevertheless, the best knowledge formalization technique is still an open issue. Knowledge-based systems differ from other information systems on the basis of separation of concerns. Information components, the knowledge base, are detached from problem solver components. And so my presentation major focus is the overview of the ontological methodology to develop the intelligent system that intended to solve the reaction capacity identification problem, the problem that is solved by scientists. So ontology, tracing its origin to pre-Socratic Greek philosopher Parmenides of Elea, has also become an information technology concept. Defined by Stanford researcher Thomas Gruber as an explicit specification of a conceptualization, ontology has gained its importance in application domain modeling. Well, the approaches to model application domain differ. We here adhere to the methodology developed by Alexander Klishov and his colleagues at the Institute of Automation and Control Processes. This is the Far Eastern branch of the Russian Academy of Sciences. Well, ontology contains terms, term definitions, and term attributes. But according to this particular approach, the ontology model is developed in mathematical terms with the help of the mathematical apparatus of algebraic systems. The ontology model is described using applied logics language. Well, the language is declarative. You can find the description of it in references of my publication. Specifically for our task, we have also defined special extensions for the language. So we have analyzed the chemistry application domain, extracted a lot of terms and definitions, and developed two major ontology models: the systems meta-ontology model and the chemical compounds and their electron properties ontology model. Well, the latter model is defined in terms of the former model. That is why systems is called a meta-ontology. We worked with experts in the area, organic chemistry specialists and applied physics experts to develop the model and to analyze the definitions. Well, this on the right, you can see the sample from the systems meta-ontology. Well, it may seem scary, but actually, if you are familiar with set theory, with first order logic, with functional programming, then it can seem quite natural for you. Some ontology model terms can have recursive definitions. Here, the following sample defines types or sorts systems. You can see on the right, it's equation one, subsystems, direct subsystem subsystems, all subsystems in the equation 2, and sets a restriction in the equation 3. This restriction means that any system cannot be its own subsystem. And the function all subsystems is calculated recursively, making use of the function direct subsystems. You can see it in the fifth equation. Chemical reaction and chemical compound are generally viewed by chemists as systems. The idea of representing chemical reaction as a system with several levels comes quite naturally. On the right, you can see the figure 1, which depicts chemical reaction as a 5-level system and embodies all of its subsystems. Based on the system's meta-ontology model, the chemical compounds and the electron properties ontology model is developed. It contains at least one module for each chemical reaction subsystem. So each module has its own terms, term definitions, and term attributes. Some module terms represent entities of the subsystem this module belongs to. Well, on the next slide, you can see intelligent system architecture diagram from one of my previous works. Then after the above mentioned ontologies and the mathematical models have been designed, the editors for systems meta-ontology and chemical compounds and the electron properties ontology can be developed. Afterwards, the editor for the knowledge base is developed. So editors are the information components here, as you can see on the right. Well, as a meta editor based on the system's meta ontology is developed first, then the editor for chemical compounds and the electron properties ontology is developed utilizing the meta editor, and then the editor for the knowledge base is also developed utilizing the chemical compounds and the electron properties editor. Then knowledge engineers and experts, chemists, work with these editors. These editors are developed in accordance with ontology models. You can see on the right figure 3, which depicts systems meta editor, which is developed with the help of Django admin. Actually, the stack of technologies used in the development process may differ. We have used the Django Web Framework since it's a model view template framework, which heavily utilizes the object relational mapper concept. So you can use, for instance, other frameworks as well. The admin panel is immensely customizable in Django, so it was very convenient to use it. So in figure 3, you can see that an engineer chooses the direct subsystem for the system provided. Atom is a direct subsystem of the chemical compound. Next, I would like to show you the prototype of the intelligent system that solves a chemical compound reaction capacity identification problem. Well, after the analysis and design stages, all the ontology models and intelligent system artifacts should have already been made. Well, you can find them in all of my publications by my ORCID, for instance. After all the ontology editors and knowledge editors have been developed, or maybe in parallel with this step, all the interface components should also be developed because chemists should be provided with the interface to enter functional groups, their properties and chemical reactions these groups can engage in. Well, intelligent system primary users who can have or have not education in chemistry or chemistry related fields should have the interface to put molecules in their structural form into the system. Well, after any molecule has been introduced by the user, we'll call it parent molecule, the intelligent system searches its knowledge base. actually, the substructure search is performed utilizing Ullmann's algorithm for subgraph isomorphisms. If any molecular fragment that the parent molecule possesses has already been entered into the system by the chemist, then the system will mark the atoms in the parent molecules that belong to the fragment found. Well, figure 5 depicts benzene and figure 4 depicts the result of the search for the knowledge base fragments in the parent molecule. The system understands that the parent molecule contains 3 benzenes and that the benzene is a uniform structure, not a structure that contains, for instance, several single double bonds or alkenes.
Okay,
Well,
sorry for interruption, but we have less than 2 minutes. So could you please
oh,
just
okay, okay,
no, no, I'm sorry. Okay,
okay,
carry on.
it's the conclusion. So, I want to emphasize the fact that intelligent systems they intend to solve the problems originally meant for a human brain. For instance, chemists acquire the knowledge by dedicating dozens of years to studying and lab experiments, and this helps them to predict chemical compound reaction capacity by examining the initial compound structure. And they search for functional groups primarily of the parent compound and analyze their characteristics. And if the intelligent system is intended to solve this problem, it should try to imitate professional chemists' behavior. So to automate reasoning, well, the application domain ontology and its mathematical model can be analyzed and developed. Then utilizing a system approach, we have developed the systems meta-ontology model and chemical compounds and the electron properties ontology model. Um, uh, 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 s- uh, uh, Reductors which are based on the systems on two ontologies. Well, ontology base editors are developed with the help of the Django framework, so you can use other framework as well. Knowledge engineers and chemists, they work together with these editors to fill the knowledge base, and so then the interface components that facilitate chemist compound structural formula input and user input are developed utilizing JavaScript molecular editor. You can use other editors as well. I will show you this on the right. You can see the JavaScript molecular editor. It's a free software. Well, now further research is being conducted on collaborative knowledge-based development. So the ontologies introduced in this paper and the methodology described here can be utilized for intelligent system development in almost any domain of interest. We just have applied this methodology for chemistry. So thank you for your attention. Well, and the reported study was funded by Russian Foundation for Basic Research, and project number is on the slide.
Okay,
So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, dear, and we are lucky to have you again in this session because since you missed the previous one. So thank you for the efforts.
Thank you very much.
Okay, most welcome. It's over to you, Professor Julia.
Okay, thank you very much. Very interesting presentation. I'm not a chemist, but I can understand that this ontology study could be very, very important and very interesting. I have one well, curiosity. Do you have also included, or do you plan to include also some forms of recommendations in this kind of system, for example, in order to handle some errors, or also to suggest more effective, how can I say, because I don't have the technical chemistry terminology, but I suppose that a person that is starting with in the educational field, I mean, a person using this kind of system can also make some errors, is not so familiar or not so expert in understanding the reaction capacity, the different compounds, and so on and so forth. So I'm just curious about what kind of feedback the system can give to the user in order to improve his or her knowledge.
Well, sure, we are planning to make a recommendation, also a recommendation subsystem for this system. I have presented only the prototype, but actually it's gonna be more sophisticated system in the end, with recommendation system and with the components that can be used for learning, because the system can be utilized especially in the learning process. When I first talked to chemists who are working in this field to try to find the interesting problems that actually that can be for interesting problems that the system can solve, but the problems that can also help to in the process of education and so on. Or for instance, for the scientists who are working with fragments, with molecular fragments that are not so vastly widespread. For instance, there are 100 books on organic chemistry functional groups. I have cited in my publication. You can find them. I think it's Saul Patai, the chemistry of functional groups. It has the author Saul Patai, I suppose. So it will be useful for those who work with for chemists, scientists who work with rare functional groups to make their knowledge widespread, and so that chemists from other countries, for instance, can also see the results of their experiments and so on.
Okay, thank you. Interesting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the presentation. And now we will get back also for another presentation with Mr. Ali from University of Central Florida from the United States. On behalf of the co-authors, he would present a paper titled as Model-Based Variational Autoencoder with the autographic flow. So the floor is yours, Professor or Dr. Ali. Could you please just share your screen and turn on your mic? Sorry, are you with us? Because, yeah. Yeah, sorry, we could not hear you. It looks like that there is an issue with the mic. I can't see that you are muted, but we can't hear you.
It seems he's in mute.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's A. It's A. Sorry, because it's not the full name. I could not recognize you. It's fine. Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so good morning to everyone from the United States. I am Ali, and I'm gonna present a paper in reinforcement learning, and the title is Model-Based Variational Autoencoder with Autographic Flows. And the authors are me and Ali Al-Malki, Maya Sufyani, Oud Al-Grayed, Dr. Paul Wajan, and Dr. Wang. So I would like to start with the agenda. We're going to talk about the model components, and then inverse autographic flows and variational autoencoder, recurrent neural network, controller, training, testing, and result. So here we have the model, or we have the architecture of our model, and in this blue box we have the variational autoencoder with inverse autoaggressive flows, and what's inside the blue line is variational autoencoder with a layer of AFI inverse autoaggressive flows, and it's one component. But in the image, we can see how the method of AFI and variational autoencoder works. So variational autoencoders has two parts, encoder and decoder. And the general concept of autoencoders is quite simple. It involves setting up the encoder and decoder as a neural network and try to learn the best encoding and decoding using an iterative optimization process. So at each iteration, we feed the autoencoder with some data, and the encoder compress information using encoder and reconstruct with the decoded to initial data. And in this model, here we have the Z factor. In this model, the factor of latent space is additionally normalized by inverse autoaggressive flow, and the assumption that hidden space is a simple approximation of genius density. So the environment we used is a car racing game from OpenAI Gym, and in the environment, the agent interacts with the usually consists of multi-dimensional space, and the space represented in the image is seen as an agent moves. And then after this process is done, it passes the Z factor to the recurrent neural network, and from the recurrent neural network passes it to the controller and to the environment to see what's the next step. So to test and train our model, we need to run several steps. Then first we generate a random roll output, and then we train variational autoencoder on each batch of data, and we train. Then after we train variational autoencoder, we can use it to generate the training set of recurrent neural network. And for the environment, we used both variational autoencoder and recurrent neural network can be on a random rollout data. The recurrent neural network, or the RNN, requires encoded image data and from variational autoencoder and action A as an input and one time step ahead encoded image data from the variational autoencoder as an output. After that, we train the controller, and for the controller, we use a form of reinforcement learning that utilize an algorithm called CMA, convenience matrix adoption evaluation strategy. As our optimization algorithm, it's known to work well for solution space. And last step to visualize the model, and this model we were able to achieve a score of 928. Here we have the formula of the layer we used in this model. So the encoder is used to compress the information, while the decode is used to reconstruct the state. Unfortunately, this method has a drawback of rearranging the information as a vector. And in the form of a point in a multi-dimensional Z space rather than a real function. And this problem can be solved using this regulation formula, and it's called callback liberal divergence. And it's commonly used comparative matrix of determining convergence between two probability distribution. This matrix forces the distribution of coded data into the center of a latent space. And we noticed that an important during the agent learning process of reconstructing in the input image.
Sorry for interruption, but we have 3 minutes more.
Okay, I'm gonna go so fast. So here we have the implementation of our layer using TensorFlow. And here we have the results. So after we generated random rollout data, we trained variational autoencoder. So here the original model, and here we have our a new layer model. So we see that we have a better loss, and this is the process during the training using Google Colab. In this slide, we have the output and input of the encoder and decoder. So the job of the encoder is to take an input sample and convert its information into some vector. And vectors are basically a set of number, and the decoder takes this vector, expands it out to reconstruct the input sample. Here we have the training recurrent neural network, and the image shows the basic structure of recurrent neural network, while it's the role of variational autoencoder model to compress what the agent sees at each time frame. We also want to compress what happened over time. Here we have an image of a training process in Google Colab, and all the way here we see the recurrent neural network new losses, and we achieve below 0 losses, which is a good result.
Okay, perfect. So we have almost 1 minute.
Okay, so let me show you. So here we achieved a score of 928, and here let me show you a video after visualizing the model. So the car learns to drive by itself, and if it hits the green, the score will go down, and if it keeps driving in the road without any mistake, the score will go up. Okay, thank you everyone. So this ends my presentation.
Thank you, Ali, for the presentation and for the creative idea. It's over to you, Professor Julia.
Okay, so thank you for this presentation. I'm wondering what is the baseline performance. So what about other I mean previous results in the literature? So how good is this? I mean, it's quite good because I can see from the video that is quite good. But is there any other literature results that you compare with? And,
Yes.
sorry, and the second question is why did you choose exactly this kind of architecture?
Okay.
With the variation autoencoder with the R on R and N.
Okay. Yes, so the original paper or the previous one is called World Model, and it was published in 2017, and they achieved a score like their highest score was 906. So we used their model, but we modified variational autoencoder. We came up with a new layer called inverse autoaggressive flow, and we combined that with variational autoencoder. So we were able to achieve this score 928 in 2 days, in 2 days training, and with a better result. And if we use their model without changing or doing anything, we have to train it at least for a week. It takes 7 days to generate data and train variational autoencoder and do other steps. So our layer achieved better score in less time.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And recurrent neural network, we used it because the model has to predict what's gonna happen next.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you.
Thank you, Ali, for the presentation, and we're sorry for the extra time for the session, but we still have another one presentation from the previous session. So I don't have the slide in front of me. So Berjewel, could you please just share your slides, introduce yourself, and go ahead with the presentation? Thank you.
Thank you, Feroz. Yeah, is my screen visible?
Yeah, it's visible, but there is a little bit echo in the sound. So could you please just try to make it a little bit clearer?
Yeah, now is this fine?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Go ahead with the presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I am Prajalis Selkar. So I have worked on this topic known as performance analysis of Wi-Fi and LTE, LA, and LTE with my co-authors Deekshit, Rahul, and Dr. Kiran. So basically, what we have done is, as initially, as the technology in telecommunication is increasing, we see that huge number of network devices are added into the network. So it's important that data traffic handling is very important. So how do we mitigate this data handling traffic? So this is the situation what we have handled, and we see that according to the forecast, we see that 66 exabyte of data traffic is being handled in around 2022. So how do we handle this is the problem which we are facing now. So coming to this, we observe that we have two types of bands, that is licensed band as well as unlicensed band. So how do in the licensed band is what we transmit our data traffic of LTE. Okay. So but in the unlicensed band, we have this Wi-Fi users, Zigbee users, such users, and it is most of the time not used to its complete efficiency. So is there a possibility that we can handle this, we can coexist this LTE licensed band with the unlicensed band is what we were working in this research actually. So So this was the problem statement what we are facing, and the unlicensed spectrum was from the 2.4 gigahertz to the 5 gigahertz range, which we are expected to work. So objectives of this project or the paper was to analyze various coexistence techniques to coexist LTE with Wi-Fi for the efficient spectrum utilization, as well as improving the performance parameters like latency, throughput, and other parameters like mean delay, jitter, and all. And also with comparison with the TCP and UDP protocols, which will matter a lot. So these were the objectives which we have in our paper actually. So coming to the design methodology, as I explained, we have two types of band, that is the licensed band as well as the unlicensed band. So the LTE traffic which we are handling currently passes through the licensed band, but the license band is completely filled and it's very difficult to allocate many users at the same time. So to mitigate this problem, we will make use of the unlicensed spectrum, which is most of the time free because of the less number of users in that band actually. So we'll have a channel assessment in the unlicensed band based on an algorithm known as listen before talk, that is LBT algorithm. So based on this algorithm, we'll check for the availability of the band, and if the band is available, we'll try to pass the traffic from the licensed band through the unlicensed band, and then carrier aggregate and give it to the LTE users. So while doing this, it should also be seen that we will not hamper the performance of the current existing users in the unlicensed spectrum. So how this LBT algorithm works is it has an LBT access manager. So as soon as the packet comes from the licensed band to the unlicensed band, it will sense for the band for the threshold energy actually. So based on that, if there is an available channel, then it will transmit the packet. Else it will have a random backoff timer such that it will wait for such time and then try to transmit again if the channel is clear. So this is known as LBT algorithm. This is the LBT algorithm which we are using, and this is the methodology actually. So also we know that Wi-Fi uses CSMA-CA technique, and to aggregate, but the LTE has no collision detection mechanism. So we'll use HARQ method, that is hybrid automatic repeat request. So coming to the simulation part, what we have done is basically I'll explain the design. So this is the Wi-Fi, that is the unlicensed spectrum which we will be using, and this is the LTE net device which will be transmitting its packets in the licensed band. So when we'll have a common spectrum channel for the coexistence of both LTE, that is from the packets from license as well as the unlicensed band. So based on the availability, without hampering the usage of the Wi-Fi, we'll have an LBT access manager, and based on the channel detection mechanism, we'll transmit the LTE packets. So this is the design what we have considered. Considering two operators, one operating with the LA and other operating with the Wi-Fi. LA in the sense license assisted access, that is passing the packets of the licensed band to the unlicensed band, and again getting the packets to the licensed band and providing to the user. So based on this model, we have obtained some results. So I'll go through the results now. So coming to the throughput of, and also I see that I explained that we'll be using a novel coexistence technology, that is LTE-LAA, which uses LBT algorithm. So also there is a mechanism known as LTE-U, that is LTE in unlicensed spectrum, which uses duty cycle mechanism. So what this duty cycle mechanism does is it will give an opportunistic transmission for both, either for LA as well as, that is LTE, as well as the Wi-Fi users. So what this when we plot the graphs for this, we observed that as the duty cycle increases, coming to the Wi-Fi, the throughput of the Wi-Fi decreases while the throughput of the LA is increasing. This is because as we are allocating the channel for the LTE, the performance of the Wi-Fi is decreasing as we provide more duty cycle towards the LTE. Similar in the case of mean delay, since we are providing more duty cycle for the LTE part, the delay for the LTE part is decreasing while it's increasing for the Wi-Fi. Similarly in the case of mean jitter too. But while coming to the LAA method, which is a novel method which can be used to coexist between LTE and Wi-Fi, it was seen that throughput had a considerable increasement in the when compared to the LTE duty cycle approach. So transmission opportunity for LAA was more when compared to that. Similarly, for the mean delay, when we use this LBT algorithm, that is LTE LAA method, so delay was decreased when compared to, as we increase the opportunity for the LTE, the delay as usual decreases, and this was the results which we obtained, and similar in the case of mean jitter. Now we have also implemented another scenario such that we have an environment with the 120 meter length and 50 meter of width, with four cells operating with two different operators, such that one operator operating with LAA and Wi-Fi, while other operator will be operating with Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi. So coming to the results of that, actually, and also we had fixed some constraints such that we had an energy threshold set to -72 and a FTP lambda of 0.5. So coming to this, what FTP lambda is? It is the traffic intensity. So the traffic intensity of the channel is decided by the FTP lambda, which FTP lambda is an application layer. FTP is the application layer protocol, that is the file transfer protocol which we have used. And with this, we have used this comparison of TCP and UDP in the network layer. So it was observed that when coming, the throughput of the LAA was less when compared to Wi-Fi in the unlicensed spectrum. This is because TCP uses, it is a connection oriented, and also the acknowledged packets will be received continuously, and this increases first traffic also. Since this LA uses the LBT mechanism, first preference is given to the Wi-Fi, that is the unlicensed spectrum. So after that, if the channel is clear based on the CCA method, if the channel is clear, then the LTE packets have been transferred. So we observe that in unlicensed spectrum, Wi-Fi has more throughput when compared to LTE, and this is expected. But the opportunity here is, rather than wasting the part of band, we can make use of we can make use of this unlicensed spectrum too. So this thing. Also coming to the latency part, as I discussed, we have a latency which is right shifted in the graph for the LAA part because of the mechanism which it follows, because LBT needs to sense the channel, and based on the free channel assessment, it should transmit the packet. So there is a constraint of delay for it, but it is better rather than having nothing. So this is the results what we have obtained with the TCP. Coming to UDP is not connection oriented, so it is connectionless. So coming to that part, when we see that and we see that no acknowledgement packets are required for the UDP. So it is and thus we use this for the real time. So we see that not much difference is seen with the Wi-Fi as well as LAA. It's almost towards together, but LAA has more throughput when compared to the Wi-Fi when we plotted the cumulative density function values. Coming to the latency part, both had the same latency what we have observed in the UDP part. So this was the comparison for the TCP and UDP with the Wi-Fi and LAA operators. So coming to the conclusion, as I explained, we first implemented a simple scenario where we had an operator and a user, where we had two operators and the user, and we compared with the Wi-Fi as well as LAA technology for the mean delay, mean jitter, as well as the throughput. And similarly, coming to the, and also we discussed about the LTEU as well as LTE-LAA, and we discussed about the benefits as well as the results which we obtained from that, and what were the constraints which we can actually implement in that, and thus can get a good desired result. As also we discussed with the LTE, LAA with the TCP as well as UDP comparison. So these were some of the results which we obtained, and here completes my project actually. So these are the references. Thank you. I'm open for any questions.
Okay, okay. Thank you for the presentation. It's over to you, Professor Julia.
Okay, so thank you for your presentation. I have just one question. So you tested or you simulated an indoor scenario, and also okay, so do you have in mind for the next steps, do you have in mind other relevant scenarios to test, and maybe also in field test to do?
Yes, yes. Actually, we are trying to expand this project even further with having mobility in mobility factor, as well as this is an this is an simulation what we have done. Now we need to try to implement it practically such that it will have a good impact on this. So we are working on this.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then thank you for the presentation and for the answers, the discussion. And again, we're sorry if it's turned a little bit late for those who have other commitments, but we are heading to the closure of the presentations for this session today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
opportunity.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Totally fine. And we are happy again to listen to your presentation, and great idea. All the best, Doctor. So now it's the closure time. I sincerely thank you, our authors, for the excellent presentations and contribution. All of them are really interesting and informative enough. So thanks for being part of this international conference. Again, all of you would get their digital certification within a couple of business days, but please keep an eye on the emails in case that our team needs anything, any clarification, correction from your side. Also, we have already forwarded the papers to Springers for their support, and they will be published within 5 to 6 months. Hopefully everything would be fine on time, but please again be cooperative with our team. I sincerely thank our chair, Professor Julia, for her feedback, information, and for the support to all participants by her questions and suggestions for the future research. Then the last thing for today is to take a picture as a memory, even though we can't meet physically, but we still can have a nice experience and build our memories. Hopefully next year we will see you all in person. So could you please just turn on your cameras and let's make it. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay, and
Dr.
let's,
Julia, and
yeah.
sorry for
Thank
the delay in that presentation session because there were a few more presentations we have to take in. So
No, it's
Thank you for
fine.
the invitation, and thank you
thank you for
everyone.
everything. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, and the cameras. Okay, then 3, 2, 1. Okay,
Hi,
then
Katrina. How are you?
I will take it again. Because more cameras are there. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Just a second. Then
So,
yeah.
Varos,
Yeah.
is there any time in the next session because we are already delayed? Is it? Can we?
Yeah. We have. I think it's 4:10. It's 4:10. Yeah. We will go directly to the next session. Okay. Then 3, 2, 1. Okay. Then thank you everyone. Stay safe and see you in the next session. We will go direct there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.